Can you think of a very special meal that you had? Where was it? What was the occasion? Who was there? What did you have to eat? Whenever I ask this question, people usually are able to answer the first three questions rather quickly. Where was it? What was the occasion? Who was there? But oftentimes stumble when they get to the fourth question, what did you have to eat? Perhaps that's because the menu is not as important as the reasons for the meal. People have many reasons to have special meals: Thanksgiving dinners, graduations, retirements, someone moving away. What meal do you remember and why? If I were to answer this question, I would say that it was a dinner celebrating my sister's birthday back in 1990. We ate at a wonderful restaurant, but the reason I remember it so vividly was that that was the last time my father, who loved to dine out, was able to go out to eat in a restaurant. A few months later, he was placed on an oxygen machine because of his chronic lung disease, and he was tethered to that for the next 3 years until he died. It was a special evening of celebration, which I remember so well. I can't tell you what I had to eat, but I remember my father had frog's legs. He was a much more adventurous diner than I am. Now, I mention all these meals because in Luke's gospel today, meals play a significant role. Some have even suggested that they serve as an organizing structure for Luke's gospel. There are at least 10 meals in Luke's gospel, including those at Levi's house, Simon's house, Martha and Mary's house, and the one we have in today's gospel, the Sabbath meal at the Pharisee's house. It is clear that Luke uses these meals as teaching occasions, providing lessons on evangelism, justice, and the kingdom. Because meals reflect the social values of the culture, they reveal the existence of social class, prominence in society, and rank. And so for this reason, they provide the perfect setting to illustrate the countercultural message of Jesus about the kingdom of God. Now, at the time of Jesus' ministry, your place card at a dinner party revealed far more than just your name. Where you sat, or more accurately, where you reclined, and who you reclined next to, and how close you were to the host or guest of honor, was a sign of who you were. In other words, your place at a first-century table had everything to do with status. Sabbath dinners were occasions for inviting guests who were not family members, and so Jesus was a guest of honor at the Pharisee's house. Consequently, all eyes were on him, watching his every move. What people did not realize, however, was that Jesus was watching them. Like children vying for recognition, he watched the other guests as they found their places at the table. After a lull in the pre-dinner conversation, Jesus made his first telling observation. Stop trying to get the most prominent place possible. If you do, someone more important than you might arrive, and you will be called upon to relinquish your seat and proceed to a much lower place. Jesus proceeds to give a short course on humility. If pride is the deadliest of the 7 deadly sins, then humility is perhaps the most important of all virtues, because through humility, we gain proper consciousness of our relation to God. Left unchecked, pride cuts us off from others and ultimately cuts us off from God. In his instruction, Jesus is not speaking about social graces, but of God's grace. And this becomes even clearer in the second parable addressed to the host of the dinner. Again, Jesus turns the tables on his hearers and on us, on all our presumed values, so that we can see the people that God seeks to gather at the table. Jesus proposes a complete break in the cycle of reciprocity. Invite your family and friends so that in turn they will pay you back by inviting you. Jesus makes it clear that hospitality is not simply to be shown to those who are like us, or in reciprocation for invitations that others have given us. Hospitality is to be shown to the least and to the lowest of our sisters and brothers. Jews of Jesus' day imagined the end of human history as a great banquet, and some had definite notions about who would be invited. When scholars unrolled the Dead Sea Scrolls found in the middle of the 20th century, they found what one group understood to be the invitation list for the great final banquet. It reads like this: "No man smitten in his flesh, or paralyzed in his feet, or lame, or blind, or deaf, or mute, or smitten in his flesh with a visible blemish, no old and tottery man, unable to stay still in the midst of the congregation, none of these shall come." In other words, you had to be perfect to get in, and you also had to be a man. Jesus proposes a different table. He says, when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind. Long before it was defined by contemporary theologians, Jesus announced a preferential option for the poor. Besides those who suffer from physical conditions that Jesus describes, there are countless others among us who are poor and crippled and blind and lame in so many other ways. Now, every Holy Thursday here at St. Joseph University Parish, as we prepare to wash the feet of our sisters and brothers, we remind one another of all those to whom we are sent to wash their feet and invite to the table. They include people who are elderly, those whom Jacques Brel said live too far away because they've lived too long, those whose dignity is lost when government programs are cut, who feel they are a burden to their families, who think no one needs them, no one would miss them. People who are refugees, those who always eat at someone else's table, who always sleep in another's place, those for whom there is no solitude, no privacy, who have no home but memories. People in difficult relationships, broken families, divorced, widowed, abandoned, estranged, dysfunctional situations, those who feel the pain of being too far from or too close to others. People with mental illness, those for whom the world is only theirs, frighteningly theirs, a world that no one else is able or willing to share. People who are poor, who face each day afraid of not having enough to survive, enough to provide for their family, for whom even the basics of existence are out of reach. People who are handicapped, who because of their condition could not sit in a chair or maybe even find a chair. Those who are excluded from gatherings and assemblies and communal life by a stair or a curb that might as well be a wall. People who are survivors of abuse, those who are battered and broken by the violence or pleasure of another who was a stranger, or maybe another whom they trusted and loved. People who are wealthy, those who have too much and whose possessions cut them off from others, from life, and from God. People who are terminally ill, those for whom life as we know it will end soon, those dying with regrets, dying alone and forgotten, dying without hope. People who are victims of discrimination, color, language, lifestyle, whatever it is that makes someone them, whatever makes us feel afraid, superior, different by seeing that they are not us. People who are imprisoned, those who both justly and unjustly are incarcerated, especially political prisoners, and those on death row. The other, a sister or brother who cannot be labeled, who doesn't fit neatly into a category, who is too easily overlooked, too easily forgotten. All of these. We're sent to all of these. Sisters and brothers, yes, God will provide a table for all, a bountiful table of plenty with more than we need or can imagine. Our only responsibility is to invite everyone we can to come here to this table of plenty.